I'm Noor Bashara from Upcycle Design School. I'm here in Brooklyn, and I'm really excited to be hosting this workshop today with Rayia Lahoud, who is live streaming today from Paris. And she is a Upcycle Design School alumni, and she has founded her brand called Voyou, and she is living in Paris, currently getting her master's at SMOD, and she's also interning with Upcycle Design School. So I'm going to let her take it from here. And also, guys, feel free if you have questions along the way to put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. And then otherwise, if you guys could keep yourself on mute so that we can hear what's happening. So thank you, Rayia.
Hello, everyone. My name is, can you hear me? Hello, everyone. My name is Rayia. I'm currently in Paris, and I'm here to present my brand, the aesthetic and the idea of upcycling behind my brand. I'm also here to share with you some tips and some details that I'm using in upcycling, like upcycled packagings and how to make business cards and my logos. So I'm gonna start by presenting my brand and the idea behind it, how I started it, and the idea of upcycling in it. I'm gonna share my screen, show you some visuals, and feel free to interrupt me, ask questions, and just interact with anything that seems appealing to you. I think I need the setting for the share screen.
Okay, you should be able to share it now. Sorry about that.
Okay. So I created Voyou 2 years ago for my final year project in Esmad, Lebanon. I was studying fashion in Lebanon. It was a simulation of a brand, and then the idea got more mature, and I developed it into a concept brand that is based on storytelling. So every collection that I do is based on a story. It's mainly inspired by Lebanon and everything we're going through in this country. The aesthetic of the brand is more related to monsters and thrillers and this idea of gore that I include in all my projects. This is some visuals that I have on my mood board that really represents my aesthetic. So this is my last collection. I created it inspired by the situation in Lebanon. This is where the idea of upcycling got bigger because we were going through an economic crisis. We had a huge explosion in the Beirut port. So I had some of my products, like I was kind of late in the production of my collection, and I had to find very quick solutions to finish it on time. With the economic crisis, the prices were very high and were like multiplied by 7 to buy fabrics, and I'm a student. So I figured out a way of collecting dead stocks. I even created my own buttons. I collected denim jeans and turned them into garments. So this is where it all started. Then I got really interested. I did the workshop with Noor in Upcycle Design School. This is the collection before the last one that also had some upcycling touches in my buttons, in my fabrics that are still dead stock. So here we can, I chose this picture because it has everything related to upcycling. So here we can see the denim jeans that are turned into another pants. So we can see the patches, the stitches, the unfinished seams. This fabric to create the quilting was dead stock too. I also went to a huge rag house to pick up the foam that I used for the quilting. The buttons that I have on this jacket, I will be showing them to you later and how to do it. It's basically melted HDPE, which is plastic. Then all these fabrics are still collected from that stock. So my budget was very restrained at this time. And I turned out paying like $100 for everything that I used. I do collections for exhibitions, so it's not big quantities. It's more collections for mise en scène, which is more like a theatrical presentation. I only do a one-of-a-kind piece of every garment of my collection, but I'm developing solutions to have more quantities in every product. So this is still the idea behind the brand, this dark aesthetic, how I turn every story into a thriller, a horror story. Then this is also part of my mood board. So these are my friends. I try to do everything homemade and crafty. Then when I had to develop the marketing of my brand, I wanted to use some packagings that are still upcycled since it's my identity now. First, I started with collecting my scraps, my fabric scraps. I never threw them away. So I had like my prototypes, some leftovers from the big pieces. And I cut them into small squares like this. And this is where the idea of upcycled labels came. So here, if we zoom, I put my labels on the outside of the garment and I hand stitch it or I stitch it on the machine. But to reach this result, this one, or even I have labels like this where I only show my drawings. I had to go to a print shop and print my logos on a paper called transfer paper that they will press in the print shop, and then I cut it by scissors. This helped me save up on the price of the labels because I only paid for the paper. If you want to do it at home, you can also just print and iron it at home. You will remove the paper and end up with this result. For the logo, what is important is to have it on Illustrator, so vector, so you can change the size and fit it on the label, the piece of fabric that you have. So my advice to you, if you want to go into this path of upcycling, is to keep your scraps, maybe do patchwork with it, or just cut it and print stuff on it that you can hang on your clothes. It's very personalized. You can print anything, really anything. It just has to be clear with clear edges so the printing won't be blurred. And for my bags, I thought that we use paper bags a lot, and why not have another drawing on a paper bag? Just print or stamp the name on it. I'm gonna go back to the stamps later. Stamp the name on it, and there you go. You have a bag that is very personalized too, with the name of the brand on it without having to purchase any new material. Then for my brand, I wanted to add that since I only do exhibitions, I only do theatrical presentations, I thought that what if I make it accessible for my audience? So I developed a line of t-shirts with my prints on it. And So these prints, I collected the rest of my fabrics and made a shape that looks like guts, intestines, the insides of a human body. I took a picture, turned it into a print, and still with transfer paper, I printed it on the t-shirts. I try to do everything crafty, and I really want to belong to the modern craft community because I feel that everything that is made by hand belongs to slow fashion, belongs to something very personalized. It's not, it fits your own identity, and you have to look for it. And it's like a hidden gem that you'll find that will fit you. So this is, we can still see the logo here. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch to my phone and show you the process of these buttons. First, I'm gonna explain where does it come from. So I had some some balls and magnets for my fridge at home, and we couldn't really go and buy the buttons like we used to because it was very expensive and I was limited by my budget. So I took my collection of buttons, I cut small pieces of toys and magnets, and I turned them into pieces like this. These small pieces are the rest, or are the scraps of these toys. So when I have these pieces, I put them flat on a butter paper, like this one. I'm gonna switch to my phone. Mm-hmm. I have to mute myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop the share screen so I can show you the process on my. Okay. So if we take the butter paper, we grab a button, we place it, we take the small pieces of plastic, we put them over the button, we cover the button with the butter paper, and then we grab our ironing machine and just press it and wait. To make the process faster, we can do like many buttons together. So I'm gonna leave this because I prepared, so it won't take time. I prepared buttons already made, so when we remove the ironing machine from the butter paper, we're gonna end up with something like this, without the buttonholes. How do we do the buttonholes? So I have my materials here. We grab a candle and a stick. We burn the edge of the stick. We take the button and just press. Then we let it cool, and there we go. We have a new button now that's very full of colors. The edges aren't very clean, but I feel that having something who's not that isn't very clean and defined is the secret of craft, because it's handmade. It's something that you do on your own at home. It takes time. This is where the luxury of craft comes from. I'm going to show you more of these on my, so I'm going to go back to my laptop to show you what we can do with these pieces of plastic, because, okay, I'm going to go back.
How much time does it take to make one button or one set of buttons? Speaking of time.
Usually what I made like 50 buttons in an hour. Why? Because once we have, no, I think less, like 40 minutes, because once we have the pieces of plastic cut and we place all the buttons under the paper, the butter paper, we just have to press and then we make the holes and it's done.
That's not so bad.
The process is a bit long for what it is. It's like we can go and buy buttons, but if we want them personalized, and we have to know that every button is going to be different from the other, different sizes, different shape. So if we want something very unique, I think the time is worth it. And so we have to be careful that when the button is pressed, it's going to be bigger. So we also have to study the size of the buttonholes to cut them on the right size, because this button gained like 7 millimeters extra from its basic size. I'm gonna go back here. Okay. So what we can do with these scraps are, oh, do we have an echo?
I think it's okay. I'll let you know.
No, there's no echo.
Hello?
Hi, Raya.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm fine.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So with the rest of my plastic, when I finished my buttons, I created these little monsters here that I turned into earrings. I have this big guy that I hang on my backpack. So we can play around with HDPE. It's very easy to melt. It's very easy to manipulate. We can fix, like here I had to fix the arms with small pieces of plastic to attach them together. But the process is very fun. You can have it on many shapes of buttons. You can do jewelries with it. Maybe patches over bags or hats. It depends on what you want. You can play with the colors, the textures, the thickness, anything. So this is for the buttons. Then I wanted to show you another idea that I'm using currently for my business cards. When I was working on my brand, I made a marketing a business plan, and I was writing down my budget, and I figured that printing business cards is very expensive and not very eco-friendly. So I had this idea of making it into a stamp. So there you have it. The stamp is a piece of wood with your logo and your information carved into a piece of rubber. This technique helps you, like, it helps you have it everywhere, even on bags. If you don't want to hold a card, you can stamp it on a bag, you can stamp it anywhere. But the process of this will take you time and at first, but then it's just a stamp. You won't have to print anything again. You have to have your logo on Illustrator in a vector format. I went to a place called Overnight Prints in Paris that made the stamp in few days, like 4 days, for like €3, which is $2.5, I think. And I paid this much and it will last me many years. I just have to buy the ink every time. For the papers, I also asked this specific print shop if I can collect all the scraps of paper that they have. So it's cut papers like this, not refined edges. It's very, but when you have the paper, you can take your scissors. So they wanted to throw away this piece of paper that was cut in a zigzag scissors. So I take my zigzag scissors, I cut a shape. I have this shape. Then I press my stamp on ink. I take it, go on my paper, stamp it on my paper. And then you have to let it dry and you get something like this. I find the result very, I find the result very close to my aesthetic. Like it's not refined. It's not very clear. We can still feel the fabric, the paper. I know that we can still have. You find the informations on LinkedIn or social media, but having a card with you or that from a brand that interests you in your wallet is still good. It's very personal, and you with this idea you save up a lot of money, and it's very ecological. Papers are not thrown away. You can still use them. You can pick anything: cardboard, paper, pictures. I have this picture here that I don't want to use or not hang it on my wall or not anything. So I will just cut it and use it as a business card. And I think that you can always find ways to include upcycling while still following your aesthetic. You maybe stamps are a bit too messy for you, but you can make it clearer. You can find many types of stamps that are more clear and cleaner maybe. So that's it.
I love how you can also use that same stamp to brand your packaging as well.
Yes.
And to put it on bags, put it on whatever you're using to wrap up your pieces and ship them out. So I love that it has so many different uses too.
Do you have any questions? I'm here, we can interact. I would love to hear your opinion about, because I'm still new in this field, and upcycling has been a big part of my identity and part of the identity of my brand. So I really want to share, if you have any tips or any comments, I would love to share and interact with you.
Hello, Raya again.
Hello.
So I just wanted to ask you concerning the buttons.
Yes.
Do you think there should be any precautions in terms of while washing the garments? if they are exposed to heat, they might melt. Any precautions should be made, or are they safe?
So when I use this kind of plastic to for garments that aren't supposed to be washed every day. But if you want to apply these kind of buttons on any jacket or any thrifted, maybe a thrifted denim jacket that you bought, you have to avoid the heat. It won't ruin the button because the plastic is thick on it forever, since you have a thread that will combine them together. When you stitch the button, you link the plastic and the button together. But maybe not expose it to a lot of heat, because we made it with heat. So to avoid ruining it, or maybe losing the button or the shape, or maybe gluing it on the fabric, maybe avoid very high heat.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Aya. It was very interesting and
Thank you for
inspiring.
listening.
I really like the buttons. It's a great idea. I also have a recommendation for the papers, because we use a lot of paper bags when we take away, when we go for shopping. So we get a lot of paper bags. So sometimes when I need to wrap my designs, or if I want to write something, I'm just cutting the paper bags. So I saw that you printed it on paper bag, so you can use it for other things as well. So I think it's a great idea, and I really love the idea to go to this printing shops and ask for the scraps. It never crossed my mind, and it's a great idea as well. So thanks. It was very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you for your idea. I also wrap some of my gifts, because I do jewelry with my with the melting HDPE. So I wrap it in paper bags too. I think that with the stamps, instead of printing on it, you can stamp the design on it. You can stamp anything, or maybe just go and paint on it or anything, make it personal, and you have a
It's
gift.
a great. I'm going to adapt it. Thank you.
So much.
I have a question about the plastic. So you mentioned a specific type of plastic that you use to melt down. So how do you determine that these found objects, such as toys or whatever you come across, how do you determine that it's the right kind of plastic? And have you experimented with other things, such as water bottles or salad containers? And why do you use this type of plastic?
So the HDPE is a type of plastic that is that when melted is very soft, and you can work with it. It's written on every plastic object has a tag. So it's written on the object. I already used plastic bottles and water bottles. It's harder to manipulate because we don't want the plastic to be liquid or to burn. So when I did my research to personalize my button, I was advised to use HDPE. It's usually the type of toys that are that we can mold, like these plastic balls with that they fill in swimming pools, or these are very perfect for this kind of technique, because they're not very stiff, and when they melt, they don't burn or become liquid.
Got it.
It's written on every object if it's HDPE or not.
Interesting. And what advice do you have for people to find this plastic?
I personally looked in my childhood toys, but usually, yes, it's children toys, it's magnets, alphabet magnets, It's some bottles too are made with HDPE. Upcycled plastic is also a very good idea because they use the same technique to turn it into this specific object. So it's like a loop. It's like this, the material of plastic is having several shapes. So when we use the upcycled one is very easy to manipulate too.
Can I say something?
Yes, yes,
From a chemist point of view as well.
yes.
So basically what the plastics that you are good for these things are called thermoplastics. So because these are the ones that you are able to mold and change their shape when applied heat to them. So if you want, you can search for
Okay, I
thermoplastics
will. I will. I'm gonna write it down.
and you'll find a variety of objects that contain different types of plastics that are able to be molded by heat.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's really fun because when we were in quarantine at home, I got to experience with a lot of materials, not very related to fashion. And I started adding them to my collection. And it was very eye-opening for me. I really discovered upcycling when I was staying at home, just going through my collections because I'm a collector. So I collect buttons, I collect many things. And I finally used my collections into my garments.
That's great. Do you want to talk to us about the labels also?
Yes. So for the labels, I had scraps, fabric scraps at home, and I didn't want to throw them away. So I cut them into small pieces of fabrics, and with the transfer paper that I mentioned before, I printed my drawings on it. I really like looking at the label when I not necessarily as a print, but when a label is very is a drawing or is very aesthetically appealing, I like to see it on the outside of the garment. So I cut a straight edge here. I put it maybe, sometimes I have it on the neckline, sometimes I have it on the sleeve. It depends on the garment. And I just top stitch it or stitch it by hand. And I hanged it on the back or on the shoulders of the garment. So that's it.
So this is basically like an iron-on transfer paper. So
Yes.
you create the image or the label or your logo on Illustrator, and then you would print it backwards in reverse on
Yes.
the paper, and then you iron it on to
And you peel off the paper.
piece of fabric, and then you just cut it out to whatever size you intended it to be.
Yes. What I like about this technique is that the feeling is not very smooth. So it keeps the texture of the fabric. It doesn't seem plastic or polyester. It's very it's not smooth. It has like small grains on it because of the glue. So it still fits my identity. You can find many types of transfer paper. You can just go and ask. Maybe they have one that is very coated, so you have a very coated plasticky feeling on the fabric. I don't prefer that. I like to keep it kind of raw because this is muslin, so muslin is already very raw. So this is what I picked, but there are many ways and many types of transfer paper to do it. I still want to look for a more ecological way instead of printing on it and throwing away the paper. I try to use my stamp on it, on the paper, but it's coated, so it doesn't, the ink doesn't stick on it.
This is interesting though, because you're printing it on the computer, it's very easy to evolve your label and to change it. So if you want
Yes.
to print the year the garment was made, if you want to print the name of the person who sewed it, you have a lot of flexibility. Or if you want to evolve every season and have that collection have a special label, it gives you the flexibility to do that. So I
Yes.
think that's interesting about it.
Last year I had a label with a coat on it because I was inspired by the movie Psycho of Hitchcock. So I had a coat from the movie on my label, and I find it very easy to just edit what I want to print on the fabric, just go print it, iron it, and that's it. Still, I'm talking about small brands that don't produce big quantities because it's time consuming. Um, it's justified in the quality and in the time. So the time we put into this garment makes it more special and belongs to the slow fashion movement. And this is a movement that I want to be in. Like between the buttons and the logos and everything done by hand, I think that this crafty side it really belongs to slow fashion and small quantities, very niche. Do you guys want to share anything?
Okay, if there's any last questions or comments, feel free to either share it in the chat or unmute yourself. And if not, then thanks so much for joining us. I hope you found this workshop as interesting as I did. We've been doing a monthly workshop every month now, and it's been really successful. So we're going to keep doing it. And also feel free to email me or hit us up on Instagram, and if you have any workshop suggestions for the future. So thank you so much, Rayia.
Thank you.
And once again, I'm Noor Bashara from Upcycle Design School. And you can feel free to check out upcycledesignschool.com. This will be on the blog and will be on YouTube. And you can check out the Upcycle Design Masterclass. And also, you can download your free guide to finding upcycled materials. So thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you for listening to me.
Bye, guys.
Bye.